Fantasy Philosophers is brought to you by fantasy-info.com.
In our 12-team IDP mock draft that went 25 rounds, I wanted to first talk about the scoring rules, some of those that we went through, because in any IDP league, just like any scoring league that you're going to be in, the rules are going to determine the fluctuation of draft picks and the values of the players. For tackles, this one was every 3 total tackles that you had, not solo, not together with another player. It was you got 2 points for every 3 tackles. For each sack, you had 2 points. For each interception, it was 3. Each forced fumble, there was 3. So in this type of league, you're really looking at, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a big play league. At the same time, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a tackle-heavy league. It's kind of in the middle there. And guys, definitely your linebackers are going to be hurt in this type of league. That's for sure. I'd say that my personal preference I would want in some type of league like this would be really just to get the guys who are the heavy tackle guys more than necessarily even the big play guys, because I just think that, hey, if you have a top end guy like a Patrick Willis and he can rack up around 9 tackles a week, then that's 6 points. But if the guy who gets about 60 tackles in a year and he gets maybe 12 sacks, but if he's not getting that sack or 2 in that game, then just maybe he's going to get you that 2 points for his total tackles. So, and you're hoping maybe a fumble, but again, if he's not getting those sacks, he's probably not going to get any fumbles as well. These are just things to consider when you're talking about a mock draft, or not necessarily a mock draft, I should say, but an IDP league that you're looking at again, or any league that you're in for that matter, once again. So let's go into the draft here just real quick. I wanted to spend some time just talking about some things constant things that I noticed. It's interesting to me that regular fantasy football, I used to see a lot of people that would come in and are new. They draft a lot, and this has been the same for the 20 years I've been playing fantasy football, and even the guys I've known, they've been playing it since the early 80s. It's the same thing. New people that come in, they start drafting players they know a lot about in the NFL, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're great for fantasy football. You would think that people who play standard football would realize that when they get to IDP football, that they shouldn't just draft high names that they know about, because it may not necessarily mean that they're going to be great IDP players, but that doesn't always translate. Dwight Freeney was the second defensive end taken in this overall draft. I think that's too high for a guy like Freeney. That's classic for him just because of his name recognition. Troy Polamalu, I think, was the first safety taken off the board. And in this draft here, we're talking about you're drafting 2 defensive ends, 2 defensive tackles, 3 linebackers just in general, 2 safeties, and 2 cornerbacks. So Troy Polamalu, he shouldn't even be on the radar to be the number 1 safety, but because of his big name, he is there, and who knows, if Ed Reed was healthy, you might have seen Ed Reed going this thing high. But he shouldn't really be that high as well. So these are the type of things to think about. Again, it should be textbook, but I still always see people doing this. I'd say, it's not the most highly of competitive leagues at all. When I did this mock draft with the people I was doing it with, it was just on the internet. But still, just again, there's a lot of people who play regular internet leagues, and that's why I wanted to have this out there so that you have an idea what you're going to be going up against, not necessarily just experts. John Beeson was a player I wanted to talk about. He slid a little bit in this draft. He went in the 8th round. And I think that I think you are going to keep seeing him slide in IDP drafts because he is moving over to weak side instead of playing the middle. That's not official yet, but Dan Connor's probably going to play the middle over there, and he's going to play weak side. He played that in college, but he did have some noticeable issues in his first preseason game at the weak side, so we need to see him readjust to that. I think by the start of the season he'll be fine, but I would rank him down just a little bit. But really, he's still a top 5 stud, and he should rack up a lot. The weak side linebacker gets a lot of play in their defense. So John should still have a really nice season for you, but there is a little bit of a concern just because of the transition that he's making there. Other than that, that's about it for this mock draft. If you happen to be on YouTube or any other site that's video watching this or a podcast, you can go back. There should be a link on this where you can go back and look at the actual cheat sheet. I'm sorry if that's not available so that you can look at that right now, but it will be if you just go back to the article for this particular podcast.
For more fantasy football information, go to fantasy-info.com and sign up for our free e-newsletter. Good luck in your 2010 Fantasy Football League. As an added bonus, the Fantasy Info guys will include their 5 secret tips for success in fantasy football with your free subscription.